Have you ever wondered, what do I do if I lose my IRS audit? I'll tell you. Hi, I'm Jeff Fouts, a tax attorney located in Metro Atlanta with a nationwide law practice helping clients who have serious IRS problems. So, what do you do if you lose all or part of your IRS tax audit? Well, there are three basic outcomes of an IRS audit. The best outcome, of course, is when you win everything and the IRS says you don't owe any additional taxes. But as we know, there are other possible outcomes that are not quite as good. Another outcome is if the auditor does make adjustments to your tax return and you agree with those proposed changes. A third outcome is when the auditor makes adjustments or changes to your tax return and you don't agree with the auditor's proposed changes. The last outcome is the one that happens most often if the IRS's adjustments or changes to your tax return aren't challenged, or if these adjustments are not properly challenged. So either they're not challenged at all or they're not challenged properly. I want to discuss what to do if you don't agree with the auditor's changes. Upon the completion of your audit, the IRS revenue agent, the auditor, will issue a written final audit report, and this is called the Revenue Agent's Report, the RAR. And this lists any changes that he or she has made to your tax return, along with the discussion about each of these changes. And if you disagree with any of these changes, you don't necessarily have to agree with all of them, but if you agree with some of them, you should consider taking the following steps. One thing that you should consider doing is requesting a meeting with the auditor's manager to discuss the tax adjustments that you're disputing. Be sure to have your supporting documentation and arguments ready to discuss with the manager. An audit manager does have the authority to override the auditor that's underneath him or her. If you're meeting with the tax manager, it doesn't go the way you want it. In other words, you don't win. You don't persuade them to agree with you. You need to decide if you want to appeal your audit results on up the ladder. If you have proof of your tax deductions or proof of your position, or if you have a reasonable way to recreate your expenses, then filing an audit appeal makes sense. Filing an audit appeal transfers your case to the IRS Appeals Division. The folks at the IRS Appeals Division will assign an unbiased, experienced audit appeal officer to review your backup documentation and your arguments that you're making. While there are no guarantees when dealing with the IRS, it is always an advantage to have an experienced IRS employee, like those in the Appeals Division, take a second look at the arguments you're making. While I personally recommend that you hire a tax professional as early in the audit process as possible, if you decide not to do it, it's imperative, in my opinion, to hire a professional to file the audit appeal on your behalf, whether you represented yourself during the audit or not. I mean, this is a really, really important opportunity, because if you have lost all or part of an audit, the appeals process is very, very important to you, because this may be your best last shot at winning your audit. An audit appeal must be filed within 30 days of the final audit report. An advantage of filing an appeal is that the appeal takes your audit challenge out of the office where the audit occurred. In other words, the auditor doesn't work there, the manager doesn't work there. It goes to a completely different group of people. Okay? So, the appeal to the manager has value, but remember, the manager and the auditor work together, and so it's difficult for people that work together to disagree with each other, or to override, for the manager to override his subordinate, even though they're supposed to. And an appeals officer may be more receptive to your position or argument. The main disadvantage of filing an audit appeal is the length of time it takes for the audit appeal to be scheduled. You may be able to, let's assume, for example, that you're unable to locate your backup documentation. Or you think you can get it, but you don't really have enough time to find them. Even if the IRS is going to give you additional time, you may not think you have enough time. Well, we all know it may take a lot of time to get the documents if you need to request the paperwork from your bank, or if your business from your customers or suppliers. Or perhaps it's across the country at the house you used to live in or something. Another reason you may need additional time is if you need to recreate some things like a mileage log or an appointment calendar. There may be any number of reasons why you believe your tax return is correct, but you simply can't prove this to the IRS because you don't have enough time. If this is the case, if this should turn out to be the way it is, do not sign the final audit report. What you should do is continue working on getting your backup documentation while the IRS takes its steps to assess your audit changes. And once the IRS has assessed these changes and the new tax debt shows up on your IRS account transcript, at that time you can then request an audit reconsideration. Now, an audit recon, as we call it, audit reconsideration, is a special type of audit appeal. And, you know, these things are important. And so, once again, it's my recommendation that you find a tax professional who understands how to request an audit reconsideration to handle this for you. If you can't afford to pay the proposed increased tax and penalties and interest, the IRS will eventually assess the audit changes against you, whether you agree with the changes or not. It will take the IRS longer to assess the changes if you don't sign the audit report, though. And that may be what you need. You may need that extra time. But once the IRS sends you a balance due notice, a letter, they will transfer your case to the Automated Collection System, ACS, to begin collection actions against you. This is where the rubber really meets the road. You will need to analyze your situation at this stage to know what options you have to deal with your tax debt. For example, whether you qualify for an offer in compromise. Since the IRS is paid to collect your tax debt, not to analyze your situation and let you know all the options that you may have to reduce your tax debt, once again, for example, an offer in compromise, you know, it makes sense for an experienced tax professional, that they can be valuable to you at this stage. Remember, the IRS is paid to collect your money. They're not well-rounded in their training and experience to be able to tell you all the options and to be able to carefully analyze your case. That's not what they do for a living. Their main question is, when can you afford to pay in full, or what's the biggest amount you can give me each month? I hope this important video tip has helped you understand the IRS a little better and about how tax problems and audits in particular are solved. Chances are you have questions or concerns about your own particular tax problem. What I encourage you to do is pick up the phone and call me. I can answer your questions. Over the past 20 years, I've represented clients in all 50 states and 29 foreign countries, and I do welcome your call. You can reach me at 800-509-2770 or by email at jfouts@taxhelpattorney.com. I'm Jeff Fouts, and thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.